All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49ers Seahawks Week 14 preview brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out, Corte Madera and Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And this video is sponsored by Mojo Fantasy. I'm loving Mojo Fantasy. Great company. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, Krueg, and they'll match you up to your first $100. This week in Mojo Fantasy, I'm going with Brandon Ayuk over 63.5 receiving yards, CMC over 73.5 rushing yards, DK Metcalf under 58.5 receiving yards, Brock Purdy under 251.5 passing yards, and Geno Smith under 234.5 passing yards. All right, let's talk a little bit about the matchup. Niners installed as a 13-point favorite. The game total is 46.5. Niners are on a tear right now. And you know what? This might be a close game, but it might not be. I mean, the Niners beat up on Seattle on Thanksgiving. They dropped 31 points in an 18-point blowout on the road. And then last week, they drubbed the Eagles, the defending NFC champions, 42-18. And, you know, the 49ers are playing really good football, maybe the best football in the game right now. Brock Purdy's a true MVP candidate. And when the Niners play at home, Purdy's even better than he is on the road. He's averaging 11.2 yards per attempt with 11 touchdowns and only 2 picks in the games at Levi's. And entering this week, he leads the league in yards per attempt and passer rating. He's playing really, really well. So, you know, and then if you look at the skill players that he's got to work with, those skill players have an incredible 1.8% drop rate. That's the lowest in all of NFL football. So, you know, it's if you look at this Niners Seahawks head-to-head matchup, the Niners have had the upper hand. Last year in the wild card round, the Niners put up 505 total yards and 41 points against Seattle. And now you've got Debo back. You've got Trent Williams back. They returned to the lineup in week 10. And since that point, the Niners are averaging 33 points a game. So the real issue for Seattle is they just don't have the personnel to stop the Niners offensively. Over their last 7 games, Seattle has surrendered points on 43% of their drives, of their opponents' drives. That's the highest rate in the league over that span. And over their last 6 games, running backs are averaging 4.9 yards per carry against Seattle. So the Niners have been especially good on offense on first down. They're averaging an astounding 7.2 yards per play. And if Seattle can't stop the Niner run and the Niners have a full arsenal of play action concepts at their disposal, it's hard to picture Seattle getting stops in this game. Now, the Niners continue to make things uncomfortable for opposing quarterbacks, and Geno Smith knows this well. He's going to be a game-time decision. I think most people expect him to go. He had a slight groin pull this week in practice, but he's going to go over Drew Lock. Geno, though, has started 4 games in the Seahawks' career against the Niners, and in those 4 games, the Niners have sacked him 14 times. That's really where the Niners are beating up on Seattle recently, is the Niner D-line is winning consistently against Seattle's O-line. In fact, Geno's passer rating of 67.7 when under pressure, you know, just shows, you know, he's a guy who's affected when there's defenders around him. And he is questionable going into this game, so there's a chance there may be Drew Lock, but I expect that it will be Geno. And, you know, it's like I just think the 49ers are going to probably wind up, you know, taking on Seattle and beating them up. You know, Tyler Lockett and the rookie receiver out of Ohio State both are going to play in the slot a lot in this game. And, you know, fast slot receivers have been the players that typically score against the Niners. Devontae Smith scored last week. Jordan Addison, Tyler Boyd, they also got in the end zone on this defense out of the slot. And then, you know, we'll see how the Niners, Mooney Ward is the kind of the anti-DK Metcalf. Metcalf was phenomenal last week, though, against Dallas. So we'll see if Mooney can shut down DK again. The Niners won all 3 meetings against Seattle last year, and they won again in Seattle on Thanksgiving. And those games have not been close. I mean, the average score of these past 4 meetings is the Niners 30 and Seahawks 14. Um, all 4 of the wins have come by over a touchdown. So the one thing to look for is Seattle's desperate, and they got a big rest advantage. Seattle played last Thursday on full rest, so they've had a little mini bye here, and the Niners are flying across country, suffering probably a little bit of a letdown after an emotional win against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they got to fly cross country, so they don't have the rest advantage. Seattle does, and then Seattle's also got the desperation edge. Seahawks have lost 3 in a row, and they get the Eagles next week. So if they've already got 6 losses, if they want to go to the playoffs, um, they're desperate. I mean, they got to win. They got to win this week, or they got to win next week, and preferably both. And so the Niners are gonna face a desperate team that's more rested. But the Niners also are going up against a Seattle defense that allows the second most rushing touchdowns to running backs and the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. They don't stop the run. They don't tackle particularly well. And that's going to be a problem against the 49ers. So Geno struggles badly when he's pressured, and his offensive line is not great. And you've got a 49er pass rush that's top 5 in the league. Seattle's also bad at defending the middle of the field. Brock Purdy and his weapons live and feast in the middle of the field. So, I think this is major advantage 49ers in this game. And if you look at what Seattle has scored against the Niners in the last 4 games, they've scored 7, 13, 23, and 13. So they're not putting up big points against this Niner defense. Niners have won 4 straight head-to-head against Seattle by double digits. And overall, Seattle's lost 3 straight games, and they're 6-6. Now, 2 of those, you know, 2 of those defeats have come against really good teams. I mean, they lost to the Niners, they lost to the Cowboys, they also had a 1-point loss to the Rams. If you look at the trends, though, the betting trends favor Seattle. Teams laying double digits after 4 or more consecutive wins, that's the 49ers, have gone to 61, 80, and 1 against the spread since 2003. Divisional road dogs of more than 10 points have gone 94, 74, and 3 against the spread over that span. And Pete Carroll owns a gaudy record, 50, 33, and 3. He's won 60% of his games against the spread as an underdog. So, it's the trends say watch for Seattle in this game. I don't know that I would wager on this game, but I do think the 49ers will find a way to win it. The big issue for Seattle is not their offense, it's their defense. They couldn't defend Dallas at all, and they have no pressure. They're putting no pressure. Jordan Brooks is hurt. They don't tackle well. The 29th in Pro Football Focus's tackling grade. They just don't tackle well. And for the Niners, if they win this game, they clinch a playoff berth with a win and a loss by either Minnesota or Green Bay. So the Niners have a lot on the line, and obviously they're still going for the number 1 seed. So, it's going to be really interesting. As I said, DK's coming off a awesome performance against Dallas. He caught 6 passes for 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the Niners have been able to slow DK down, at least in the regular season. In the last 6 regular season games against the Niners, DK's got 1 touchdown catch, 1 in the last 6. He was held to 3 catches for 32 yards on Thanksgiving night. He was shadowed most of the game by Mooney Ward. So I don't know what the status of Kenneth Walker III, the Seattle running back. He could be out for the 3rd straight game, depending on how he progresses at the end of the week. He's got an oblique injury that he suffered in Week 11 against the Rams. So it may be the rookie, Zach Charbonnet. Again, Charbonnet had 14 carries for 47 yards against the Niners on Thanksgiving. He had 19 carries for 60 yards against the Cowboys last week. And the other reason I really like the Niners in this game is Debo. Debo is rounding into form. He had 138 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Eagles last week, scored on a 12-yard run, scored on pass plays of 48 and 46 yards, broke several tackles. Also ran for a touchdown 2 weeks ago against Seattle. He's averaging 126 yards from scrimmage per game against Seattle. So Debo has been very, very good against Seattle. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. A couple other notes. The Niners linebacker Dre Greenlaw has been fined $10,927 for body slamming Devontae Smith last week in the win over the Eagles at Lincoln Financial. I think I said it was 42-18. It was actually 42-19. But the Niners are playing great. Since their week 9 bye, they've beaten all 4 of their opponents by at least 13 points. So, and they've knocked off Seattle by at least 18 points in 3 of the last 4 matchups. The one big injury note that you should take note of is Eric Armstead's out. He's been battling a knee problem and plantar fasciitis, and he's not going to play. So Javon Kinlaw is going to start in his place. So no Armstead, no Ross Dwelly, no Ray McLeod, no Spencer Burford. John Feliciano is going to start at right guard for Burford, which he did also on Thanksgiving night against Seattle. And that was a game where Brock Purdy was under pressure on nearly 44% of his dropbacks. Also, injury-wise, Elijah Mitchell most likely doesn't go, so we're probably going to see J.P. Mason. He's doubtful. Spencer Burford, as I said, I believe he's either out or doubtful, but we're likely to see Feliciano at right guard. And then Darrell Luter Jr. is also out for the 49ers. So and then by the way, the Niners made a roster move on Saturday. They promoted Chris Conley to the active roster, the wide receiver, the veteran, and to make room, they placed Ray McLeod on the IR. So Ray's got the rib problem, and that's interesting. Who's going to return kicks? Is it going to be Ayuk? Is it going to be Debo? The Niners might be in that part of the schedule now where they want to use their stars on special teams. Also, the 49ers on Saturday activated both safety Eric Harris and running back Jeremy McNichols from the practice squad. So McNichols gets the call instead of Ty Davis-Price. So if you're Ty Davis-Price, that can't feel too good. But McNichols and Eric Harris could be part of the game as well. I like the Niners to beat Seattle, but I think it's going to be a little closer. I'll say 27-21 49ers. I think the Niners win but don't cover. And I think it's an entertaining football game. I don't think that they're not going to be up for Seattle. It's a little bit of a tough spot for the 49ers. Seattle's going to be desperate. They're going to be rested. It wouldn't surprise me if Seattle got out to a lead early, but I'll say the Niners get it done, but don't cover the spread. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show, and thanks to Mojo Fantasy for sponsoring this video, and thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueger Show on YouTube.